Hi, it's Nancy, welcoming you to Gardens Grow. It's July the 27th and we are in the dog days of summer. I'm going to have to look that up and see where that originated from. But things are just going to seed. If you can see these bells of Ireland, I probably need to go ahead and take those out. And of course I will let some of them drop so they'll come back next year for me. But it's actually less fun to come into the garden now. It's so hot, even of the early morning like now, or in the late evening. It's dark by the time it gets cool enough to enjoy anything out here, and I like to go ahead and water in the evening time, because I like to keep kind of a schedule where I be ready to go to church on Sunday morning, because I miss Sunday night, so I can water anyway. So I'd like to just keep that schedule, and that just works for me well as anything does in this heat. But things are suffering. These will be wilted down by the time I get out here to water them. Not wilted all the way down, but they will look wilty. They will be needing some help for sure. They'll love that drink, but then they stay fresh all through the night. I'm sure they do love that drink, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to save some of these. Always in the past I've been able to keep some of them alive, and then you'll be so surprised how in the fall, when the weather just begins to get a little bit cooler, just like us, these little plants will get so excited and start renewing themselves and finding, we find stuff to do in that beautiful weather, and they will just start growing and thriving and putting on new blooms, and they will just, if they can stay alive long enough, they will just love being alive in the fall. They'll be singing. We had a watermelon the other day, and I put the rind out. I usually do this for the butterflies. They love it. And then all around the garden there's little butterflies. They'll go there and get full, and then they'll come up and get on a plant. Let me see if I can even get you one, but I may not can. Let's see, there's one right there. And well, there's several around. I'm probably not going to be able to get them on here, but they fly and flitter around, and it's good to see them. It's very interesting to watch nature. So I did look up Dog Days of Summer and its meaning, and I'll read that off to you. But right now, I'm just feeling like in all this beauty, mostly what all I feel is just tired, fatigued, and a longing for some pretty better days where we can actually enjoy this instead of sweat through it. So I looked it up in the almanac.com. It says the dog days of summer last from July 3rd to August the 11th. What are the dog days of summer exactly? What do they have to do with dogs? The ancient origins of this common phrase might surprise you. Enjoy this article about the meaning behind the dog days of summer. Dog days bright and clear indicate a happy year, but when accompanied by rain, for better times our hopes are vain. The term dog days traditionally refers to a period of particularly hot and humid weather occurring during the summer months of July and August in the northern hemisphere. In ancient Greece and Rome, the dog days were believed to be a time of drought, bad luck, unrest, when dogs and men alike would be driven mad by the extreme heat. Today, the phrase doesn't conjure up such bad imagery. Instead, dog days are associated purely with the time of summer's peak temperatures and humidity. The period of sweltering weather coincides with the year's rising of Sirius, the dog star. So I hope that enlightened you a little bit, and you can look it up more if you're interested. It kind of got me interested just going through all this heat, and it happens, of course, every year at some point. But look, my little strawberry pyramid is trying to fill out. And there's a few last scraggly looking little daylilies in bloom. And I'm wishing I had planted this black and blue salvia in the ground. I just put it in this little pot right here because I thought it probably wouldn't make it there anyway. I knew it was tall and I thought I'd just curl up under it. But it came right on up and just went around this little garden decor piece, and it's just really looking good. It's also a tender perennial, so it doesn't always come back for me, so I would have loved to have it in the ground where it had a better chance, but we'll see what I can do to maybe give it a little protection and hope that it will come back next spring. And I've actually enjoyed these little coneflowers even more than I thought I would. They are flat rather than the cone shape, and they have that pretty cone at the top, and they're just bright and beautiful even in this terrible heat. You can see the heat's getting to this periwinkle even. But here's more of the little coneflowers, and they're looking good, except of course where the grasshoppers ate some of their little leaves or petals off. When things get to looking scraggly and need some attention, and the weather is so hot and I'm feeling so spent up, it just makes it where I don't feel like I can do anything about it but just let it look all ratty, and I don't like that. But you know, there's always so much that needs to be done in the garden. This little rose needs to be clipped back again. So it can shine. It would put on another little flourish of bloom when the weather gets nicer, and it will eventually get nicer. It'll be like we think we can't stand anymore, and we know it's still coming, and then sometimes it'll surprise us, and that it won't come. It will come a beautiful cool down, and everything will be nice again. I hope that should happen this year. It has happened in the past. One time we even got that in August, but I know we still have all of August to go through. Today is actually the 29th of July, so we do have a ways to go. My little lilac is definitely having it rough this year. It's turning brown, black almost. There's still a few pretty green bits of foliage on it. The crepe myrtles are looking beautiful. Look at this beautiful swallowtail butterfly. It's almost worth coming out in the heat for. Look, there's two on there. I'm noticing this little pink zinnia is looking great. It was so wilted down last night when I watered that I had no idea it would be able to come back looking this good. And that's the way it will be, and that's the way it is in our lives too. I've been going through a downtime, and I'm sure the Lord will bring me back out of it and through it. I'm certainly ready for it. How big this little dinosaur kale is getting. My other two are not nearly this big yet. And I was coming out to get this little pink Carolina, ruffled Carolina hibiscus picture because my granddaughter called me and was telling me about one her neighbor has, and she had not seen this one when it's in bloom. The last time she came, the peonies were in bloom, and she actually took some starts of those home with her. I hope they're doing well, Paige. And yes, I do have this beautiful hibiscus. I don't have the bright red Lord Baltimore anymore. However, I tried to get another start this year, but it just didn't make it. It was so tiny, and the grasshoppers came and thought it was wonderful, so they just ate it up. The Henry Eiler's Rudbeckia is beginning to bloom, and the sweet autumn clematis will soon be in bloom. It'll be a little while yet, but it probably will not be long. And I've trimmed it back. I'm hoping that it will bloom at the same time, but there's never a guarantee of that. But if it does, it'll just be a billow of beautiful white. And also, before that happens, we'll probably have some of those dreaded clematis beetles that look like a gray or greenish gray blister bug. I'll have to keep an eye out for them, or they will strip all the greenery off until there's nothing but just stems left. They can take it down quickly. And the blue lobelia is beginning to bloom. I'm sorry, not lobelia, but cardinal flower. This is really pretty. but it will not last long. It will turn brown all too soon. And I don't know if I've pointed out my castor bean in a while, and it is definitely growing up. There's those big old leaves or foliage that I've been telling you about, and hopefully, and I do believe it will just continue to get taller. This one's only about 3 foot tall maybe right now, but it'll probably at least get to 6 foot tall and maybe even taller. These little zinnias are looking great. However, the ones that I put in my little pot are not looking so great, but they are alive, and that is plenty good for me at this point, because if they live and the weather gets cooler, they could still put on lots of bloom. You can tell there's a bloom beginning right down here on this one, and they could still fill these little pots out and be very pretty, but I'll just have to see how that will be. I see I do have one blooming in this pot. And right here behind it is the pretty pink parasol coneflower that's new to my garden this year. And then right beside it, there's some pretty hibiscus, although you can tell the old grasshoppers got to it. And I did spray. I can tell I'll have to spray again, though they're already beginning to eat on things. But this is also a pretty little hibiscus there by the pink parasol coneflower. And I did have several of the annual butterfly weed to come up this year. And I even actually have one that's blooming right over here, so I can show you what it looks like. And I've already said it, but I think my idea to put sedum or succulents in these pots along the fence was one of the best ideas I've had, because they just don't make it with some other plants. They need some place where they can, they don't get much water, and you know, pots dry up the first thing anyway, even if it's a bigger pot. So they just really needed this. I may have to, this may be like too big for this one when it grows up, but it may not be. I like it like that right now if it'll stay that size. And then this one looks perfect for this one right here. It wasn't quite full, but I've kind of snipped some off and put it around the edges where it didn't have any, and it's looking pretty good to me. And if that will overwinter for me, that will really be great. I'd like to see how it will do. But I plan on doing a lot more of that, and actually with feeling like I do now in the heat of summer, it really lets me know that I do need to make some changes in the garden. And I've known that, and I've been trying, but it's kind of hard. It's almost easier to keep it than to take it out as far as the work involved. And I know I want some of it still here. I'm not ready to quit. And I was showing you the annual butterfly weed, and this is the perennial butterfly weed right here. And this is the second time it's bloomed out really big and pretty like this. And the butterflies love it. And as I've mentioned, not only the monarch, because it is their host plant, but all the butterflies love these little blooms on it. And some of the sedum are beginning to bloom. Another sign that fall will be coming. Even though we can't feel it now, we'll just have to go by faith and by history that it's happened before. And so we're going to hope that it will happen again. and it'll be gorgeous out here, and I can be all excited about showing you the beauty of the garden. I thought I would come back here and see if I could find some grapes to show you, and I'm not sure if we have any. I know if we do, they're very few actually. Well, I did have a few, but I'm not even seeing any now. There's a little cluster here. It's on the opposite side of the fence. It's grown on the opposite side where it gets more sun, I'm sure. But all the others that we had here, I guess, are the birds must have gotten them. I'm seeing a few more right in here, and I don't know if I'm getting them where you can see them or not, but they're not looking good. And those grapes may have just been another thing that's gone because of all the heat. This is another place where I'm so glad I put succulents. Look how well they're doing. And I know what they look like at this time of year when I put other things in there. They're just looking awful. So these look fresh and pretty. And even though they're just a pretty little green plant, it's much better, healthier, and just prettier. Healthy is pretty. Right now, my plan for next year is to put away a bunch of pots. I want to put them away in the winter time so that when spring comes, they won't be sitting out here tempting me to fill them all up, because when I'm seeing all the pretty nursery new plants and I want to try them all, I want to have some place to put them all, but and then when I don't have enough to fill them, I do like to plant seeds in them and see what will become of it, but I just don't want to do that. That's not to say I won't do any of the small pots. I think a small pot lifted up a little bit, or like on this little shepherd's hook hanging, I think that can be very pretty and just bring a new dimension to the garden. I like that. I'll definitely want my strawberry pot filled with impatiens. That's the prettiest thing I found for them, and my friend Susie agreed with me when she put impatiens in hers. You can go back and look at some of those pictures and see how pretty that turned out. I'm excited that some of my calabachoa is still alive and doing well. For this season anyway, it's doing well. But I'll definitely want some pots. But I'm going to put them all away, or a lot of them, not all, a lot of them away. I do really like this heather in this little turquoise watering can. I think that's pretty. I'll want to keep that. I love this little pot here filled with impatiens. I love these little swans, even though they're old and dilapidated. I love them, and I love them filled with chrysanthemums for that fall color. When fall comes, they're just green all the rest of the time, but they make a beautiful showing in the fall. I love the hanging baskets off of the porch. I'll definitely want these still here. I love this little pot that I finally found something that's slender enough to fit in this little spot, and tall enough that you can see it over this little bird bath fountain. And I love it that my second chance I got on my bacopa, it's alive even now at the end of July. So there's always something to be thankful for. I was so sure this little strawberry pot would fill out like this little pot beside it has filled out. And it may still, there is still time before frost comes, and these little zinnias will usually go until then, although they're suffering too. If I want them to look good at all, I'm going to have to come out here when it does get just a little bit cooler and shear them down part way so that they'll have a chance to look good again. Even my little plumeria has suffered. It has lost so many leaves off of it. I don't know if it'll come out of it or not, but of course I'll try. I'll keep trying until the bitter end, but I hope there is no bitter end. I hope there's a wonderful regeneration. This beautiful little yellow rose beside that yellow green coleus. And I have some elephant ears in that pot. I didn't realize I did, so I planted that little rose there. Now that'll be probably a little bit of a chore, a trick to get that out of there without destroying the other one, which of course I'll hope to be able to do. I do want most all of these pots, but not all. There's just some of them I don't think I want. I want to go ahead and put them because I think you'd actually be able to see some of the stuff in the back, and it would have a better chance if I didn't have all these others piled up in front of it, even though I like that look too. I do, when it's so lush and full. This little zinnia in my little tipped over pot is looking good this morning. They're still feeling the effects of last night's watering, and they're looking pretty fresh and good, but not everything in the garden is able to do that. Like these little zinnias, they are looking so very badly. I'll need to shear these off just to see if they might do something again when it gets cooler. But I'll probably wait to shear them off too, because they would just get all crunchy again. So I'll probably just wait, and hopefully there'll be enough there to shear them back when the weather begins to get cooler and give them a chance to shine again. If not, I'll definitely try to save some of these seed so we can try again next year. Truthfully, I think they're just so used to all that rain that we got early in the month of July. It was so wonderful, and they were so spoiled, and this is how they reacted to that. I'm sure I'd react that way too if I had to go back to the days when we didn't have air conditioning or even a fan, and we worked in the peanut fields chopping all summer long. I'm already reacting negatively to all the heat, and I'm not out in it nearly as much, and I can go into air conditioning, and it's just really, there's no reason to be all sad or just feeling listless, but I do, and part of it's probably just even my age and my health, but whatever it is, I do know the Lord will help me through it, and it does seem to happen whenever it gets like this, the heat and everything, and just feels like there's no end to it. Even though you know there is an end to it, it just begins to feel like, no, there's not, not an end in sight. Even the weatherman will tell you the same thing, so you know that's how you feel. That they'll be rejoicing when it's coming around again, and we'll be rejoicing with them. I told my sister I thought I could save her little plant for her, and this ivy is just wilted over. I don't know what to do for it. So I brought it outside, see if maybe it just needed some fresh air. And no, I haven't underwatered it or overwatered it, and I bought it a new little pot so that it would have the clay pots, which are so much better for any house plant, as far as I can tell, because they don't let it just rot, because they do not continuously hold water. They go ahead and let it seep right through, or dissipate right through the pot itself. So that's always better for them. This little plant is still alive. I hope my stepdaughter Laura's is still alive too. It probably is, and it's probably doing better than this, which is great. You know, I told you I got a little start from this, and I had it started, but the snails or the grasshoppers or both had their share of it, and there was none left for me. So I'll probably try to start another one, but I don't know if I will or not, really, because I tried to start one later in the season last year and it didn't live through the winter for me. I think they need to be started early enough that they get their root system going really well in order to make it through the winter months. Hopefully this one will, though. I've taken it in and out several years now, and so far it's came back out for me. I hope not to break that record. This little stained glass coleus is still doing well, although I did notice that my little clippings didn't make it. Well, some of them did. I took these and put them in here at the same time. But let me go down, and this one actually made it also. But let me go down and show you the ones I'm talking about that didn't make it. And they are in this little pot right here. Well, I was going to tell you this one made it, but now it's not even looking good. It looks like the wind has broken it off right there, or it could be a snail or something that did that too. I'm going to try to get this down under in the ground where it will have a chance. But I don't know if it will make it or not. And I know these won't, because they're just dead. So I will try them again. And the reason that these didn't is because the heat came on so strong, and when they're just first put in there, they don't even have a root. They build their little root, but they can do it, and they will do it if it's a cool enough weather and they're getting enough water. They will go right ahead, like the ones I just showed you before this. And I don't know what the difference is, because this one is under just about the same amount of shade, but they just did not make it. So I will try again on those. And also I'm thinking about not only taking up some of these pots, which I am going to plan on doing that this winter, if I can get the chance to do that, but not these little stackable pots. I still want to see what I can get in these that will just flow down and look beautiful. But all of this that's just coming up from seed from previous years, I do want some of the celosia. I will save some seed, but I don't want all this just coming up everywhere. And that also goes for the annual salvia that is down here, and I'll go down there and get it closer where you can see. But also I was going to point out as I go that this little pot is looking great. These little profusion zinnias in here, along with the orange coneflowers, are doing just like I hoped they would, and just shining and looking wonderful. See, my pink mandevilla is even looking good today. And oh, this strawberry drop coleus did just what I hoped it would do, and just took off and went and kept on going. And it will keep on going. I'm almost sure it'll go until the days get so cold. And the coleus do actually succumb before the frost, most usually, because after it gets so cold, they just don't want to be out here in that. They don't seem to mind the heat, though, if you can give them some shade. and some water and keep them moist. They'll just keep on going for you. And I love these Chinese dunce cap, how they just keep going and going and going and going and going and going. So pretty. And they really are perennial too, although I do have to wrap some plastic around this, and even then they'll look like they're never going to be able to come back. Be a little powdery puff of something. You'll think, well, that's gone. But if you leave it, it most likely will come back to life. Now I'm here where there's some pink strawberry fields in there too, but I'm talking about this pretty pink annual salvia, and I do love it. It's beautiful. And I see I have some red out there too. I want to get rid of those because they will not stop. Now this little pinkish red one here beside it, this is a woody pink salvia or a red salvia, and it's wonderful. It will not get out of hand. It will not be invasive. It will just be beautiful. But this pretty pink gets so invasive. Last year I came out and pulled all of this up in the heat and decided, that would keep it from coming up so much, and I wouldn't mind having just a few, but it didn't come up just a few. It's came up everywhere out here, and there's just no end to it. It's just the few that I left made all of this. I know I'm in for trouble. So what I'm going to try to do is, after I pull this up, and I'll probably wait till fall or maybe even spring, I'm going to put on some pre-emergent and see if that will work to keep the things that are annuals that come back from seed, to keep it from coming back from seed. I'm going to give that a try and see if that will work. We'll see. And then hopefully all my perennials will come back. I certainly don't want to lose my peonies, this yarrow, ballerina white yarrow, any of the perennials. I do want to be able to keep those if at all possible, but I don't want these annuals. I always thought that the perennials would be the ones that would be most trouble, and some of them are if they're invasive and put their feelers out and just keep going, that root that keeps on going forever. And also if they have seed and root that spread, then they can cause trouble, like lantana. Even though it's a very pretty plant, it will be everywhere, even places far away from where you originally wanted it, because the birds will take it and put it in places that you don't want it. So it can be an invasive plant. I've actually found that I love the annual lantana more than the perennial lantana. And even though you have to buy it each year, at least it's not just a invasive plant. Now, and I'm going over here because I do have some of the annual lantana in here, and it is a very pretty plant. It comes in white and yellow. It comes in this pretty red and yellow. It comes in a pink and yellow, I believe. It has lots of pretty colors. Now this salvia, it looks like that annual salvia right here, but it is not. It is a perennial salvia. And it does spread a little, but it does not spread to the point of being invasive, and the hummingbirds love it. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel. And I also wanted to say thank you to all the subscribers I've recently got for helping me raise my numbers up, and I'm still trying to get that 500 number. If you can help me with that, I'd appreciate it.